Good morning, children. Today we are here to discuss some of the questions of the previous year of the subject Home Science. As you all know, the ISC examination had to be deferred due for the pandemic. Hence, certain theory papers have not yet been conducted, and one of them is Home Science. So we will do a quick recap of some of the Home Science questions that has come in the previous years. To begin with, there are certain general tips I would like to share with you, which will be easy for you to answer the questions. One is, do not leave any question unanswered. This is something you must be knowing because you have already appeared for a number of papers. Then the other one is, you can start any question. There is not a must that you have to begin from question number 1. It may be question number 5 or 6, whatever the number is. But remember that the sub-questions of that question also should be done together in a proper order and not randomly. The question number to be written correctly, so that's easy for the examiner to correct. Like for instance, question number 1, 2 or AB, whatever the subsection is there, should be properly mentioned. The presentation, very important, should be neat, clean and legible handwriting. Your handwriting should be very clear for the examiner to be able to read it. Then you have to give a lot of importance to the marks allotted. For example, if a question carries 2 marks, then remember that the examiner is asking you to write 2 points and not more than that. Or if it is 3 points, maximum 3 points you can be written, maybe 2 or maximum 3 points. But remember not to overwrite. Too many points in a question for which minimum quantity of marks has been allotted is a wastage of time. So for a 2 marks question, you are expected to write either 2 points or maximum 3 points. Don't waste too much time doing a question, this type of question, by writing more than that. Next is, avoid doing any extra questions, because this will eat up the allotted time, as time management is very important. Keep enough time in hand so that you're able to solve the entire question paper within the time frame. Because many a times we find that students keep complaining that the time was too short or the question paper was too long. Actually, it's not so. It's the problem of time management. So hence, for this matter, students have to give a lot of importance to this point and not answer any extra questions. Another thing is that carry enough pens with you, which you must be doing all these for the last papers that you have appeared for, because it is better if you don't change the color of the ink that you have been using. Next is not to use whiteners. If you have made a mistake, either draw a line with a pen or pencil to cancel it, but using whiteners is not something which should be done. Borrowing is strictly prohibited, especially as you know with the pandemic on, there'll be enough of social distancing in the hall. So we wouldn't like students to borrow. Hence, all of you should carry enough stationeries. And the last point which I want to stress on is keywords. Every answer has got some important points, which are known as the keywords. And these keywords should be a part of your answer. Because many a times what happens is that you complain that you did not score well, though you had written enough. The problem here is that you may have written enough, but you have you may not have written the keywords. So keywords in every answer is a must. Now let's come to the structure of the home science theory paper. As you all know, you have completed your practicals, home science practicals, which carries 30 marks. The maximum marks allotted for the theory paper is 70 marks, which has been divided into part 1, 20 marks, and part 2, 50 marks, to be done within a span of 3 hours. Once again, I repeat, the theory paper carries 70 marks, and part 1 is the compulsory section, which consists of 10 questions of 2 marks each, that is total 20 marks, and part 2 is 50 marks. So the total time allotted is 3 hours, and 15 minutes are given additionally to read the question paper. And this timing is not meant to be used for writing. So from part 2, you will need to do only 5 questions. You will have enough choice and you will need to do only 5 questions, and each question carries 5 marks. Please check for the marks allotted to each question. It will be written by the side of it, and based on that you will think of how long your answer should be, because you have to keep time in hand. So today, let's first begin with the short questions or the compulsory section. Let us see how to answer the questions from this part for a few years, for the previous years. So 2019, we begin with 2019. First question: why has solar cooking become so popular as a modern method of cooking? And here the key words or the main part of this answer is because there is a crisis of non-renewable source of fuel and energy. That means solar cooking is favored because it is a renewable source of energy and it is natural, no maintenance needed, and is an eco-friendly method. So here you can see I've underlined the key words, that is, due to a shortage of non-renewable fuel in this world, people are shifting to solar cooking, which is also eco-friendly, another very important keyword, and also cost-effective, meaning we can get it free of cost in nature. The next question is, what is meant by pounding? And give one example. Pounding is a method which we notice where a particle is broken down into smaller pieces by hitting it hard with hard blows. At home we do it with a mortar and pestle, and many a times it is done by the farmers to remove husk from the grains like rice, wheat, etc. So this is husk removal methods. And why is this pounding done? Or what is the use of pounding? The key words are, it helps to release or give out the juices and flavors from the food. So at home many a times we crush the masalas and all in the mortar and pestle so that the juices and flavors can be released. Even pounding of meat is done while cooking many a times to release juices and flavors, and at the same time for husk removal it is an appropriate method so that the rice grains can be easily separated from the husk. The next question: the 2 changes that occur in the nutritive value of food during germination. Now germination is a form of food which is done to increase the nutritive value of the food. Similar questions can also be got by you, which deals with sprouting, fermentation. So all these are methods used during the cooking process to improve the nutritive value of the food. Now, if you look at germination, it is done to increase the content of ascorbic acid of vitamin C and riboflavin vitamin B2, and also makes protein digestible. So the main keywords are that during the process of germination, ascorbic acid and riboflavin is released from the food and also makes the proteins digestible to the human body, makes it easy for the human body to digest the proteins. That's why we find sprouted beans, which is an example of germination, being consumed because it is a simple form of protein. It is much easier to digest than the unsprouted variety. So like germination, you could be asked questions based on sprouting, then fermentation. These are food items which we call as probiotics, which helps in the digestion of food in the human body. Another question, mention 2 ways of increasing life expectancy of the elderly. Now, elderly people, as we all know, have a weak immune system. That means that they are easily susceptible to any form of diseases. So for this reason, they need to exercise regularly, then they need to take multivitamin tablets, antioxidant supplements, regular health checkups, and must be living in a happy environment. Because most of the elderly people feel that they are neglected, and socially we find that they start suffering from depression. So for this reason, we have to include them or make them realize that they are a part of society and they are very much a part of the family too. So for this reason, they have to be socially accepted. There must be a strong emotional bonding with the family, friends, and they should not be neglected by society. Hence, for this reason, the main key points or the things we have to keep in mind while writing this answer is that healthcare facility is very important for the elderly, as they have a weak immune system and they need to take proper multivitamin tablets and antioxidants regularly. Next question is, state one difference between bactericidal and bacteriostatic methods of food preservation. So now when we talk of differences, please keep in mind this is not similarity. Students make this mistake many a times by writing similarities or same or common points. But here the question says differences, and let us see how the two methods are different from each other. Bactericidal means to kill the bacterial cells and stop it from growing further. And what would be the methods used for this? It's sterilization, pasteurization, and on the other hand, what is bacteriostatic method? Bacteriostatic method simply means to stop the growth of the microorganisms which are present in the food. It doesn't kill it, it simply stops the growth of the microorganisms. That is what happens when we freeze the food that we have in our house in a refrigerator at low temperature. So there's a big difference between the two terms. The first one, bactericidal method, kills the bacterial cells and stops its growth, which we do by sterilization or pasteurization method, while the second process, bacteriostatic method, simply stops the growth. The microorganisms are still living, they have not yet died. They are very much alive but unable to multiply because they have been refrigerated and kept at a lower temperature. Moving on to the next. Name any two adulterants found in spices. A very common thing we find in adulteration in spices is brick powder and chili powder. It's mixed up as an adulterant. Lead chromate may be mixed up in turmeric powder, very injurious to health. Hence, we must have a fair idea about the adulterants which may be used in the market and be careful about it. The question number 7. State any 2 common safety measures adopted in the home to minimize the risk of electrocution. Electrocution, a big problem, a common problem in households. So the circuits have to be properly grounded. All electric appliances and panels should not be wet, and neither should the person using electricity use wet hands. Something to be careful about. Moving on to the year 2018, some of the important questions in the short section, that is from part 1. Here again, all the questions carry 2 marks, as I told you initially, so the answers are briefly written. Though we may write the answers briefly, we must, I am repeating once again, we must keep the keywords in the answer. We mustn't forget to include the keywords. What is the difference between boiling and parboiling? Very similar terms. As we know, both the methods use water. That is, both are moist methods of cooking. Boiling is complete cooking of food using water, hence the food is fully submerged or is inside water. While parboiling is partially cooking food like rice, vegetables in water, and is a pre-cooking method used many a times to grill before grilling certain vegetables, meat, etc. It may be parboiled to make it soft. So this pre-cooking method helps to cook the food faster when it is grilled. Then rice is parboiled also. Parboiled rice is available in the market as a separate variety which is easy to digest, that is half cooked. While boiling, I once again repeat, is a process where even distribution of heat helps to cook the food completely in water. So these are the 2 differences that we find between boiling and parboiling. And every year, more or less, in this section, a question is asked where you'll be told to point out the differences between similar methods. Question number 2 is 2 disadvantages of washing cereals and fruits. As we all know, fruits and cereals must be washed before they are cut. Why? So that vitamin B complex is not washed away. If we wash the fruits and what you call vegetables after cutting them, then the vitamin is washed away and the nutritive value is lost. After washing food, it should be consumed immediately is another point. Why? Because too much moisture content will be there in the food as you have already washed it with water, and if you keep it in this condition, then slowly we find that the taste of the food as well as the texture, that means it starts becoming loose, it loosens up, the cells loosen up. That means there's too much moisture inside the cells, and slowly the taste will also start fading out. Question number 3, 2 merits of microwave cooking, a new form of cooking used by all in the kitchen these days because it is done very quickly, healthy as it uses less oil, and improves the flavor of the food. So this could be another question, methods of cooking, why a particular method of cooking is used, and you have to mention what is the good points of a particular method of cooking. Then 2 ill effects of using pesticides on food. These days, as we all know, lot of pesticides are being used by the farmers. And these pesticides, when they get into the food, they what you call reduce the growth of the plant and also decrease nitrogen fixation. Now, let me give you a brief idea about what is nitrogen fixation. The leguminous plants, which in simple English we can say are the pulses or the dals, are able to get, or let me say take, nitrogen from the atmosphere and make proteins in their what you call plant cells. And this is done because the roots of the leguminous plants have got a special type of nitrogen fixing bacteria which help them to take the nitrogen from the atmosphere, and by using it they are able to make amino acids and proteins. So if pesticides are used too much, this bacteria starts dying. Then the plant will not be able to use the nitrogen from the atmosphere, and it also reduces the growth of plant. Too much of pesticides will reduce the growth of plants. The next question is, list any two bactericidal methods of food preservation. That means, again repeat, bactericidal method means to stop the growth, not to kill, but to stop the growth of the existing bacteria in the foods. And two methods that can be suggested are defreezing at a lower temperature, canning of food. Yes, canning is also another method of another bactericidal method, because when we can the food, we seal the can, so no outside air may enter. And no outside air may enter means oxygen is unable to enter the tin cans. As a result of this, if there is any bacteria within the can, it will die because it will not get oxygen for breathing. So hence canning is also another bactericidal method of food preservation. Then the next question, number 6, is explain the term eco mark. For consumers to be aware of the product they buy, we find that the Bureau of Indian Standards has come up with different consumer protection marks. They can ask you about eco mark, they can ask you about FPO, ag mark, ISI, wool mark, and each one is given to a different type of products. For example, here eco mark. Eco mark is given to a product which is environment friendly and ecologically safe. So any product which bears the eco mark means that it is a product which is ecologically safe, means easily it will not affect the environment, it will not spoil the environment, and at the same time we find that we have to be doubly sure that this type of products used by us will not hamper the environment at all. In the same manner, if any product is given ag mark, AGMARK, that means it is an agricultural product which has been given, a product is given an ag mark when by the Bureau of Indian Standards to any agricultural product, which again means that it is of good quality and doesn't contain any adulterant. Then if the product has been given wool mark, that means that product is made up of pure wool and doesn't contain any synthetic fibers in it. So in this manner, the Bureau of Indian Standards has come up with certain different marks which they have allotted to the different products, so that it is convenient for the consumer to know that the quality of the product he is buying in the market. Question number 7 is, what is meant by dry cleaning of clothes? Dry cleaning, as the name suggests, doesn't use water at all for cleaning the clothes. Instead of water, we find it uses solvents like tetrachloroethylene or petroleum solvents, and we find that regular water and detergent, which are soaps, water, detergent, which we normally use for washing clothes, is not used in the dry cleaning process. Hence, it is an expensive method used for washing expensive clothes like silk, wool, velvet, where we find that we are very comfortable, as we know that if you dry clean a particular type of cloth, an expensive cloth, you will find that the color, the sheen, the texture remains unchanged. And the solvent used here is either petroleum or tetrachloroethylene. Moving on to the year 2017, I again come to part 1, that is the short answers, each carrying 2 marks. One of the questions is, state 2 reasons why frying is not recommended as a method of cooking for people recovering from illness. As we all know, frying food means it contains a lot of oil, so hence it is not easily digestible. So people who are ill will not be able to digest fried food. So for this reason, as we have underlined the key points, it is not easily digestible or recommended for people who are unwell. The second question is, state any 2 advantages of dry cleaning clothes. Just now I was talking to you about this very point, that dry cleaning of fabric sees that the color is unaffected or not damaged. And if it's a velvety material, we find that it doesn't flatten the velvet. It keeps it as it is in that state. So that's why dry cleaning is favored for certain clothes or certain fabrics like velvet, silk, wool, etc. The third question, what does a special diet mean? Another word used for a special diet is therapeutic diet. And what is a special diet or therapeutic diet? It is a diet which has been prescribed, or we can say a menu for a meal for a person who is being treated for a particular disease. And this diet generally is made by a dietitian in the hospital, or the doctor may suggest it to the patient that he or she suffering from the disease need not eat everything, but follow a diet which will help the person to become well soon. So there are certain specialists who have knowledge about nutrition, and they are able to plan it out. What sort of a diet should be given to a person, for example, suffering from diarrhea, or a person who suffers from diabetes or heart diseases, etc. So for them, we find that a special diet is important, especially a therapeutic diet. The next question is, mention the importance of vinegar in food preservation industry. First of all, to begin with, what is vinegar? Vinegar is a dilute form of acetic acid. Hence, it is used in the preservation of meats, fruits, vegetables. So what is the speciality? That why is vinegar used? Because vinegar, being a form of acetic acid, has got a low pH value, which we study in chemistry. So all acidic mediums are not preferred, or we can say are not liked by microbes like bacteria, fungus, etc. to grow. They prefer an alkaline medium. So whenever acid is used in the process of pickling, we find that vinegar is suitable because it maintains a low pH value of the meat, fruits, vegetables, wherever it is added. As a result of this, it keeps it fresh and does not allow the growth of microbes. But vinegar is tasteless. So for this reason, to give a taste, either salt or sugar is included. A very good question, a very important question, if you take it from the examination point of view this year, is differentiate between incidental adulteration and intentional adulteration. Adulteration, as the word goes, means to add something to the original food content, which can be done incidentally or intentionally. So sometimes food, we find that intentionally it is being done by the producers to increase their margin of profit. So like for example, we had come across a question where brick powder is added to chili powder. That will be an example of intentional adulteration, because that will help the producer to increase his profit margin. On the other hand, incidental adulteration is done without a person's knowledge. That is, it can happen by mistake, due to negligence, ignorance of proper facilities, pesticide residues, droppings of insects, larvae in the food, metallic contaminants. So for this reason, what we find is that adulteration of food can be done, if done because of negligence or ignorance, we call it incidental adulteration. And here, of course, it's harmful, but it has not been purposely done. But when we talk of intentional adulteration, this is purposely done, especially in spices, or it can be done in certain type of masala, powders, etc., to increase the margin of profit. Please pay attention to this question, a very important question for this year's theory paper. Then moving on to another question, another short question, again carrying 2 marks. State the role of liming in increasing the nutritive value of foods. The process of liming means to add calcium. And why is this calcium added? To release niacin for the body. Niacin is a vitamin B. It's one of the members of the vitamin B complex. So many a times what we find is that calcium is being added to the food so that the vitamin niacin is made available to the body. So with this we finish today's class. I once again want to repeat that the questions that I have discussed with you today all carry 2 marks each and are compulsory and need to be answered briefly, but please don't forget to add the keywords, because that's very important when the examiner marks or when corrects your answers. He will definitely give you marks according to the keywords or the important points found in it. Thank you.
Hello students, welcome to ISC online video lectures. In today's session, I will be explaining to you certain guidelines which will be helpful and beneficial for those students who are appearing for the examinations which are due in July. As you all are aware, we were supposed to have the examinations in March itself, but due to the pandemic, due to the crisis it was postponed. Since you have already received a circular regarding the rescheduling of these examinations, I have come here specially to give an insight, to give an advice, to help those students who are appearing for the board examinations this July 2020. So this session of today can be beneficial, can be useful for not only the students appearing for the exams in 2020, but for those students also who will be appearing for the examinations in the future. So let's start with today's session with the rescheduled timings. I felt that it is my duty to remind you once again regarding the rescheduled timetable as given by the council. The sociology exams, which were postponed, will now be held on 7th of July, which is a Thursday. Again, please take note of this, dear students. It will be held on the 7th of July, that is Thursday. Your timing has been changed. Now you will have a morning paper that will start from 11 o'clock and the timing will be 3 hours. So at the start of this session only, I felt that it will be helpful to you to remind all the students about the date. Those of you who have not got the timetable as of yet, it is going to be held on the 7th of July. It is a Thursday. The time is 11 a.m. and the timing for the examination, the duration of the examination is for 3 hours. Let me now quickly discuss the question format. This is not new to you, but since this is a reminder, I felt like I should just recap the question format once again. The question paper, as you all know, is of 100 marks, a total 100-mark paper. We have paper 1 and paper 2. In paper 1, we have internal assessment of projects, and in paper 2, we call it the theory paper. Now let us divide the paper 1 here. In paper 1, you have to do 2 projects, project 1 and project 2, which you already have submitted. Project 1 consists of 15 marks. Project 2 also consists of 15 marks, which makes it a total of 30 marks. So your paper 1, which is the practical paper, actually consists of 30 marks. Next, we come to the theory paper. The theory paper is due in July. It consists of 70 marks and the duration, like I have said before, is for 3 hours. So if you add project 1, project 2 and the theory paper, which is of 70 marks, the breakup I have already given, it comes to a total of 100 marks. Now let me discuss with you the questions. When I'm talking about the theory paper for 3 hours, your theory paper, which is paper 2, is divided into 20-50 ratio. The 20 marks here will be compulsory questions, and each question will carry 2 marks, which means you will get a total of 10 questions. These are all objective questions, very straightforward, very simple, and you have 10 in number, 2 marks each, which makes it 20 marks. And regarding the objective questions, how you have to answer, what are the guidelines that you have to follow, certain tips, certain general comments, that I will be discussing later. Right now, I'm just giving you an outline or the skeleton of the format of the question paper. Coming to the long answer section, which is part 2. Long answer section, as you can see here in the board, is choice based, which means it entirely depends on you. That means it is up to you what kind of questions or which questions you want to attempt. The choice-based questions are 5 in number. You have 9 questions in total. But out of 9 questions, you just have to attempt only 5. And each question carries 10 marks. I've written here, each question carries only 10 marks. However, the questions are divided into subsections. You all have gone through the ISC paper. So you know, if you have question 2, then you will have divided into A and B. So you have 2A and 2B. Subsection A will consist of 5 marks, and so will subsection B. So if you add the 2 subsections, you will get a total of 10 marks. Sometimes you also get a full 10-mark question. You will have a straight question, one question carrying 10 marks each. And again, which questions to choose, how to go about writing long answers, how do you frame your paragraphs regarding the presentation of your answers, etc., that I will be discussing later. So again, let me recap. You have 70 marks paper, theory paper, which is of 3 hours. Compulsory question is 20 in number. And you have choice-based question, which is 5 in number. From this platform, I would also like to tell you people, to remind you students, please do not attempt any extra questions. There was a time when if you felt that you're too prepared and you know all the answers, you could attempt extra questions. But now I would advise you, this is a strict a guideline from the council, please do not attempt any extra question. Please stick to only 5. Now, in my previous ISC lectures, you will find the link. You can go to KTV online, ISC online lectures, etc. If you click on sociology lectures, I have already explained the pupils' performance, the analysis which is made by the council. And there I had already explained that there are 2 types of analysis which the council makes. One is quantitative analysis and the other is qualitative analysis. And this analysis is done every year at the end of the examinations. The quantitative analysis is nothing but a statistical representation of the marks, for example, the highest marks that were scored, or the average marks that were scored, or the least marks that were scored by the students. At the same time, in this quantitative analysis, they also try to find out, all right? They also try to compare region-wise who scored the highest, or gender-wise comparison, or you might also have state-wise comparison. So this is generally regarding the marks that the students have scored. At the same time, we have another analysis, which is the qualitative analysis. In the qualitative analysis, the examiners, the teachers who are correcting the papers, they sit together at the end of every examination and they give valuable, again I'm repeating, they give you valuable insights, advices, comments regarding how children are supposed to answer the questions. And going through the past year's performance of the students, the analysis made by the teachers, I have come to a conclusion that I have to share with you some of these valuable advice which has been given by the council. And I feel if you go through this video today, you will be able to benefit from it and hopefully also write better answers. So let's discuss the qualitative analysis. First and foremost, the examiners have, over the past years, I'm not discussing only for 2019, but I'm doing it for over the years, the examiners have felt that while correcting the papers, these are the topics which have been found difficult by the students, which means they have given questions, but students have not been able to answer, or many of them didn't even attempt, or many of them found it really difficult that maybe they have not scored good marks for that particular answer. So therefore, they have given a general comment that these are the topics which were found difficult by the students. And for some, like rather than attempting the question, some even don't care to study that particular topic. Now, which are the topics? Again, I'm repeating, I've made this presentation going through the analysis of the previous years. Some of the topics are, I'll just read it out to you. Ethnocentrism. Now, ethnocentrism is a newly introduced topic, right? This topic was introduced in 2015. Before that, you did not have this topic in the syllabus. In 2015, the council introduced ethnocentrism, which comes in the second last chapter, where you have your social stratification. You have ethnocentrism, and you also have the topic like racial prejudice. Now, some of the textbooks which we are using do not contain these topics. Right? The textbooks are there, they have been printed and reprinted, but some of these newly added topics are missing in the textbook. And most of your teachers might have already given you notes or might have given you enough handouts and might have already explained to you. So therefore, children found ethnocentrism and racial prejudice topic a bit difficult. Now, those of you who have history in your ISC, you have a chapter on racial prejudice already there. So it will be advisable if you do a comparative study, all right, regarding racial prejudice. You will find the topic both in history as well as in sociology. Next topic that the children found difficult was fundamentalism. Now, fundamentalism, again, a bit confusing because most of the children feel that it has something to do with fundamental rights which will come in your political science. There's a marked difference between fundamentalism and fundamental rights. Now, fundamentalism will come under the religion chapter. Once again, this is a newly added topic. I have spoken about this in my previous lecture as well, where when I spoke about religion, this chapter on religion, once it was religion and magic. Then magic was scrapped off, and then you had these new concepts which were added in the chapter. Apart from that, apart from fundamentalism, you do have communalism, you do have secularism. Secularism is a bit easy for the students, but fundamentalism was one topic which they found it difficult, and I hope many of you agree with it as well. The next one is relationship between social change and sustainable development. This is the last chapter in sociology, the last topic in sociology regarding social change and regarding sustainable development. And in one of the years, a long question had also come. And that particular year, most students could not answer this particular question properly. They did not understand the two concepts. Which are the two concepts? One is social change, and the other one is sustainable development. That is why, because they could not understand the two concepts of social change and sustainable development, they could not make a relation, the connection between these two concepts, social change and development. The next, again, a newly introduced topic, class system. Earlier, in the social stratification chapter, it came with the name of the heading as rank and society. Here, caste and class concept, which you do in social stratification today, was there, but for few years, this topic was scrapped off. After that, in 2015, the council reintroduced this topic called class system. And in class system, again, you have to study the class system, the concept of class system with reference to the caste system which was present in India. And normally, you get to make a comparison between the caste system and the class system. Now, I've gone through the past year's question paper, and I too have taken out these topics, which I feel that, yes, genuinely, students did find this topic very, very difficult. The next one is topics in which students get confused. Get confused, right? Now, if I have to make a kind of comparison between difficult and confused, if it is difficult, most students will not care to study the topic at all. Oh, it's so difficult. I do not understand a word of it, right? Even if it's been explained in the class by the teacher, I might as well not attempt because I find it difficult. At the same time, got confused meaning you did attempt, you did write a few lines, but while writing your answers, the examiners felt that you knew the answers, you were prepared, but you were confused as well. So which are the topics? Again, I want the opinions of the students as well. Maybe they will agree with me, maybe you will agree with me that yes, we do get confused in these particular topics. Topics like religious beliefs and rituals. It is one of the questions, long question, which is often repeated, religious beliefs and ritual. So you have studied, but while sitting down to write the answer, it's so confusing, it just goes out of your mind. You cannot remember the difference between beliefs and rituals. The next one is these terms like Brahminization and Sanskritization. Brahmin, Sanskrit, Hinduism, it does ring a bell. You feel you know something about it, but just as you sit down to write the answer, then you start mixing up the concepts. So when you get mixed up, the examiner automatically comes to know that the child has got confused. Next one is animism. Animism because you do have another concept, another theory of religion called animatism. So animism and animatism sounds almost similar. Again, in animism and animatism, since you're talking about the belief in soul, then children got confused here. Next is assimilation. Assimilation in tribal society comes in the chapter Tribal India, Past, Present and Future. Towards the end, when we are talking about the several tribal groups, and there are some talks from the anthropologist's point of view about these tribal societies, the changes that took place, then one of them is assimilation. So children have problem understanding the concept of assimilation, acculturation, etc. Next is degree of kinship. Now with kinship, there are various types, degrees, range, terms, usages. So sometimes maybe you're reading the question paper in a hurry. Maybe you're not giving enough time to understand what you're supposed to write. So even if it's given degrees of kinship, explain the degrees of kinship. Most children write there 2 degrees, 4 degrees instead of 3. So this becomes a genuine concern of confusion. The next is sex and gender, newly introduced topic. Sex and gender comes under social stratification. And even in the textbook, it has been written that we use the terms sex and gender almost interchangeably. Where we are supposed to use it, that most of us do not know. So for children also, this becomes another area where they get confused. So I have discussed with you the topics which are found difficult, and the topics in which the children generally get confused. Now, let me share with you some of the guidelines which have been given by the council. Remember, children, at the start of this lecture, I had told you all, prepared you earlier itself, that this session, will be more of a preparation session. It's more like prepping you up, all right? Because for the next session, that is, when I come again, that time I will be discussing with you the chapters individually. Here I am just giving you the guidelines which have been set by the council on how to write good answers. And I feel everybody wants to score. You should also, right? You've got enough time for preparation. Therefore, because you have got lots of time, because you are getting these kind of suggestions, you should definitely do well in your examinations. Now let me quickly give you the guidelines. Firstly, these guidelines, I'm just giving it out to you. First thing is, strictly follow the scope of the syllabus. Whenever you sit down to study any chapter, please first check with your syllabus whether those topics are included for the examination or not. Many children are making the mistake of studying the entire textbook, studying all the topics. Yes, you can, but please make sure whether those topics are coming for the examination or not. So you have to follow the scope of the syllabus. In every textbook, the first few pages will consist of the scope of the syllabus. Council's regulation handbook is also there. At the same time, if you just go to the website CISCE, again, I'm repeating, CISCE. If you type that website and you go to the publication section, in the publication section, you will be able to download the syllabus. So my first suggestion to all you students is, please be very, very clear with your syllabus. Second is, selective study must be avoided. Children, here there is no inky-minky ponky that you play. There is no hard and fast rule that what has come in 2019 will not come in 2020. We cannot take any risk with ISC board year, which means a question which came right in 2019 can be repeated in 2020, because generally the myth that goes around, or generally the kind of trend that we feel that ISC pattern follows is one topic has come this year and another will not come, and then that kind of games, or that kind of we have that pattern which we feel is followed while framing the question paper. But here the council itself has given this guideline that selective study must be avoided. Don't choose or pick and choose topics as per your whims and fancies. Next is, every topic and subtopic is important. So when you are studying about kinship, don't say I'm going to study kinship term and I'm going to leave the kinship usages. Or when you're studying about family, do not say I'm going to study about functions of family and leave features of family. Each and every subtopic, each and every topic is very, very important. So you have to give your full preparation regarding all these topics. Next is, reading time is critical, and this is what I want to focus on. Since you have got enough time for preparations, I know children, you're staying at home, studying, waiting for the board examinations to get over, but please make sure, since this is your last examination, you better give it your best. So how do you go about it? First thing is, the reading time is critical. As you all know, 15 minutes is your reading time. And 15 minutes is, I think, too long a time to choose the correct questions. It's very critical. It must be used well to understand and interpret questions with accuracy. Do not just glance through the question paper. Don't just look at the question paper and then try to find out what your friend is doing. Do not tick the same questions which your friend is ticking. When you read the question paper, please give it a thought. Please spend a lot of time, that is 15 minutes, which has been given to you. Use it very, very wisely to understand the question. Like, for example, in the long questions, you might get something like discuss the degrees of kinship, or explain, or enumerate, all right? So you have to understand what these questions are asking for. Because out of nervousness, or because out of hurry, or because you have not prepared well, that does not mean you do not read the questions properly. This is where you will write confused answers. If you have not made the correct choices in the beginning, then naturally, when you're writing the answers, you will get totally confused. So out of those 9 questions also, now compulsory I will not go to it because you have to do it, but choice-based questions, you definitely have to understand the question, interpret the question, what are they asking? Because it's no point beating around the bush. And you have to answer it with accuracy, to the point. Just give what is asked, not more than that. Next, for answering part 1, remember I told you when I gave you the question format that I will be looking into the objectives and choice-based questions and giving you certain suggestions. So here I am starting with part 1. Focus on keywords and examples. Keywords are absolutely important. Helps you to understand and also helps the examiner with the corrections. If they have asked you, give an example of descriptive term. Example of descriptive term. There is no use writing the definition of descriptive term. Please be exact. Just give the example. That is it. Right? Or if they have asked you something about define so-and-so, define kinship, or define social stratification, define tribe, I think it pays to underline the term that you are defining. Instead of starting straight away with tribe is so-and-so, sometimes the examiner also should know what you're defining. So first give the term and then you write your definition. And if you underline the key words, then I told you the presentation of the answer script is also very good. And again, the burden on the examiners of correcting those scripts will also lessen. So keywords, and the next one is examples. In sociology, you can give plenty of examples. Examples, normally I refer to it, I have told many of my students, as a life jacket or a parachute. A life jacket and a parachute can save our lives, during certain crisis situation. Same here when it comes to defining religion. Suppose you got a question like define religion. Now, we are not testing, in sociology, we are not testing you for how correct your grammar is. Now, you know what religion is, but where are you having a problem? In expressing that definition. You don't know how to write. So, in that case, even if your expression has gone wrong, but in the next line you have given example, Hinduism, or you have given example, Buddhism, the examiner will come to know that at least the child has understood the meaning or the example of religion. So you will be rewarded for giving examples. So whenever you can, wherever you can, if you feel examples are going to help you, all right, please make sure to give it. That will later on turn into your life jackets and parachutes in scoring good marks. Next is coming to part 2, choice-based. Should be written in paragraphs. Even when a food is served to you, if everything is given to you in one plate and it looks horrible, no matter how tasty the food is, I do not think we would like to eat that kind of food which is given, which is served where everything is put into one, that khichdi. But if the plating has been done well, food is served, but When you look at the food, you feel like eating it. Everything has been served well. If you walk into a departmental store also, you must have noticed nobody gets lost in a departmental store. Because you have indicators, you have arrows, you have sections, you know where to go. How easy. Anybody who goes for the first time into any departmental store will not get lost, because you have these pointers, these indicators, you have these various signboards, etc., from where you will never get lost. Same with the examination paper. Make it as easy, as examiner friendly as possible. How do you do it? One way is by writing very neat and tidy answers. Choice-based question, long questions, please give paragraphs. In paragraphs, you have three things: introduction, 2 or 3 lines will do, body and conclusion. So if you follow the introduction, body, conclusion formula, IBC formula, you have easily got 3 paragraphs. And any answer which has 3 paragraphs, anything which is written properly, it will become very good. Presentation will become very, very good. Next, subheadings are important. Wherever you can. If you have to write about features of family, if you have to write about functions of marriage, wherever you can, please give subheadings. Like if they have asked you the functions of taboo, where you have to write productive, protective, prohibitive. Instead of writing everything in 1 paragraph, why can't you make 3 paragraphs? Give 3 subheadings so that the examiner feels like he or she is walking into that departmental store from where she can pick and choose whatever she requires. Next, be conversant with current affairs. Children, this is very, very necessary. In sociology, most of the topics you will find are relatable. It's applicable. You can always find something or the other that is happening and you can relate it to the topics that you study. So whenever you have certain things about racism or something on gender issues or on rape or on some tribal, etc., if you feel that these information, these latest updates are worth sharing, you feel by writing these answers or these points, your answer will become much more interesting. Please feel free to write it down. Because here it says that you have to be conversant with current affairs, especially with panchayati system. If panchayat election is round the corner, please go ahead with it. Or if you feel that there is something new which has come up in the news regarding gender issues, etc., some legislation which is being passed by the government, you feel that your answer will become very good if you write about it, please do share. General awareness also is very, very necessary. Something on gender discrimination, something on children's issues, right to education, and which can help in framing the detailed answer. Because not every answer needs to be textual. You do not have to quote the text all the time. And generally, if you look at the question papers, some of the questions are framed in that manner. Like when you're writing about women's issues, you do not need to write everything from the textbook. You can mention names of books or writers or movies or serials or something, latest legislation which was passed on the women, like for example, the Teen Talaq, which was specially passed for the Muslim women. Please include that also. Next, and with this, I would like to wrap up today's session. The next 2 guidelines, it's written here: prepare a list of definitions and key terms. It pays to write down. Written revision is very, very necessary, because I know most of the children go through this problem of forgetting very, very easily. So the best way to retain, to recall, to understand is you write it down and you study. And I presume most of you have already done. So in your free time, you can just study all your notes that you have written. List of definitions, which are plenty in number in sociology. Prepare the list of definitions and also the key terms associated with it. Last but not the least, regular written revision is must. Please do it at home. You can take a previous year's question paper. Just solve the objective question papers. Time yourself. Half an hour is more than enough. Just feel whether you can. Find it out whether you can complete the 10 questions in half an hour or not. The next day you take out one question. Okay, I'm going to do just one subsection. Today I'm going to write something about animism. Today I'm going to write something about dormitory systems in India. So that way the timing will also become perfect, because remember, it's only a 3-hour paper. To understand the concepts, first you have to write to understand the concepts, and you must write also for retention, to retain everything that you have studied. With this, I would like to end today's lecture. Thank you very much for watching. The next session that I will come, I have already told you before, I will be individually dealing into chapters, and I will be letting you know which are the topics that you have to stress on. Till then, stay safe, stay indoors, and save lives. Thank you.